Dr. Stephen Andrew Missick, and I'm a January 6er. So I was at the Capitol on January 6th in 2021, and I wasn't a part of any insurrection. It's kind of crazy. There's probably 1 million people there. And what I want to do in this series is I want to talk about January 6th, what really happened, and how they tried to exploit that incident to attack American citizens. So you have this movement, the Make America Great Again movement, and the federal government tried to break apart, operating in a partisan manner and violating the rights of American citizens. An attempt to break apart a political movement, the citizens enjoying their constitutional rights, but with goals in mind that the corrupt bureaucracy and people inside the Beltway of Washington didn't like. They want to go to a more authoritarian direction. They don't want the voice of the American people and the needs of the middle class to be addressed. And they want to keep on chipping away at our constitutional rights, so much so that they're starting to, we see corrupt elections. As I do this video, Trump has won. Trump has won the election on 5th of November, decisive victory. And the controversies that we have right now, I talked to a friend of mine, and I said, you know what, we need to have retribution. There's these morons, like, I really am deeply offended by Sean Hannity desperately begging President Trump not to pursue retaliation or retribution for what these people did to him. They went so far as to try to kill him. It needs to be investigated, but I am convinced in my mind, and I think this is a logical conclusion, that the federal government was involved in the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt on President Trump. These people are desperate. And if they're going to try to kill the president, they're going to try to blow President Trump's head off live on TV, do not think that they would not hesitate to steal the 2020 election. So, the 2020 election. In this series, I want to present some video from January 6th. But what I want to talk about is, what this is all about was an attempt to destroy the MAGA movement. And this was a stolen election. They censored us. I had a moderately successful YouTube channel, and they took my videos down. They took my entire channel down, and one of the strikes I got, all the strikes were a violation of their policies and a violation of my constitutional rights. I'm talking about facts. Facts. They were not silencing us because we were wrong about election integrity issues. They were silencing us because they were right, and these people are desperate to hold on to power. The goal on January 6th, this is what we wanted to do. I was there, and the goal is we have concerns about election integrity. One of the biggest problems I have today, I think a lot of Americans feel this way, is you totally destroy faith in elections if you have an election month instead of an election day. And that's what we had in 2024. In 2024, and it's very odd, you have the Republicans winning. They don't stop counting. This happened in California and some other places. They don't stop counting until the Democrat candidate doesn't matter if it's 100, if it's 50 or 12. They keep on counting until they find enough votes. And they were still counting votes in December 4th, 2024. What is going on? And as Americans, they take a big chunk of we're taxpayers. We have to fork over a lot of our hard-earned money in a bad economy. And this is supposed to be our government. They're supposed to work for us. And we have concerns about how these elections are being carried out. We're American citizens. We have constitutional liberties. We should have the right to air our concerns. Even if we're wrong, which we weren't, we should be able to voice our concerns because that is the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. So, this is the airing of grievances. That's right. This isn't about, oh, we're going to overthrow the government. They are trying to prevent, even now, the January 6th videos have not been released. And they fired Tucker Carlson. It was amazing. The first thing he says, I'm going to spend a whole week on January 6th and showing the video. First day he showed a lot. Then Chuck Schumer is going crazy, yelling, screaming, foaming at the mouth, demanding Tucker be fired by Fox and that Fox stop showing January 6th videos. Why? Why was he going hysterical about that? Because their narrative of insurrection is not true. It's a fictional narrative. And they use that narrative as an excuse. Because I was talking to a friend of mine, I want to air this concern. The Tea Party. We allow so much stuff to go on. Lois Lerner and the Obama administration, Obama himself, audited the Tea Party out of existence. And the Republicans let him do it. Why? Because the Republicans don't like populist parties addressing the concern of the regular folk of America. They want to just answer to their lobbyists and business interests. So, using the false narrative of insurrection, and they did it. They did it. So I was talking to this friend of mine. I said, we need to have retaliation. We need to have retribution. We need to have justice for what they did to me and what they did to others. I've suffered because I was at January 6th, because I spoke out against a stolen election. They targeted me and they devastated my life. And I know people have had it a lot worse than me. I mean, people still having their rights violated, languishing in prison. They're still arresting people. I wouldn't be surprised if they come and arrest me the last few days. Even though I didn't see any violence, I didn't participate in any violence, I couldn't even imagine violence going on. Why were we there? Because we wanted to stand with our congressmen and senators as they contested the electors. I knew they were going to certify the electors anyway, but we had to let our grievances be aired before the whole world on C-SPAN and entered into the congressional record. Then we would have done all we could do and let the world know and the government know we're not going to tolerate shenanigans or crimes and criminal, activities around the election. We want free, fair, and clean elections, not all these shenanigans, which are really criminal activities that are going on. That's what it was about. But the FBI had a plan. And what did they do? And this is part of retaliation. It's like, well, first off, what I want to do to these people, I want to do exactly to them what they did to me. And, I mean, they shouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, if they treated me fairly, if they treat these other people fairly, then they shouldn't have any problem with that whatsoever. After all, turnabout is fair play. But I was talking to this friend of mine. It's like, well, first off, they stole an election. This is a coup. It's a regime. It is a ruling junta. It's a banana republic. We're able to, thank God, only by divine deliverance, we're able to have an election too big to rig. And we're able, but Trump, as I'm recording this, Trump hasn't taken office yet. And who knows, these people are desperate. They'll do anything. We should be very concerned. We should pray. Because all these people, they don't care about right or wrong, good or evil. They don't fear God. They think they are God. And to them, the ends, which is their power, holding on to power, justify whatever they have to do it. So it's like, well, Jesus said to turn the other cheek. And I said, well, first off, look what's happened in our country. They brought in 30 million illegal aliens in 4 years. I was listening to Tucker talking to Mr. Holman today. And, you know, they had this video, oh, there's a kid, a little 2-year-old girl. And Mr. Holman says, you know, they actually were able to save that girl. There's probably a little girl, a little boy dying, getting abandoned like that every day out in the desert, dying. Or children like that being sexually trafficked. This is not compassionate or humane, having an open border. And then we have crimes, cartel members, Americans being killed all across the country. And this heavy burden, these people are not our responsibility. They're not American citizens. They need to go back to their homeland, to their own countries. And we can't even take care of our own people. So you have veterans living out in homeless encampments in D.C. and just a few miles away they put illegal aliens who broke the law or criminals. Each one of them paid $10,000 to $20,000, most likely $20,000. Well, if you don't pay them $10,000, you have to work it off. I mean, it's slavery, sex trafficking, people dying, and they had no mandate to do the. I mean, even if Biden won, which he didn't, he had no mandate to have this radical far left administration. And I talked about it, censorship. It's like, wow, could you imagine just being able to speak freely? We don't have free speech anymore. It's in our Constitution. The FBI directing Twitter and Facebook and YouTube we don't want the Republicans, we don't want conservatives, we want MAGA to have a voice. We're going to silence them. We pay money into taxation for us to be censored, for our constitutional liberties to be violated. And I was saying, look what they did to people. They threw people in prison. From coast to coast, they've been raiding people's houses, you know, early in the morning when it's still dark outside, kicking people's doors in. I mean, they don't even knock, let you open the door. They kick people's doors in, drag them outside with, you know, armor personnel carriers, you know, lights flashing. What they did was such a gross. They're committing an insurrection, really, against the constitutional system, against waging war against the American people, pulling out 80-year-old women. Just watch Nick Searcy did Capital Punishment. Watch that movie. It's all documented. And I'm gonna fight back, and we need to get justice. And you know, I was thinking about these judges. These judges that did these things, they have to be punished as well. No one's against the law. You cannot wage war against the American people and our United States Constitution and violate and commit sedition and treason and think you can put a black robe on and that's going to give you a protection, that you're impregnable because you're going to put a black robe on. No, we're all subjected to the Constitution, and no judge is above the law. And for these judges to wage war against our election system and our Constitution and against the political movement in our country, it's an outrage. And all of these judges, they need to be subjected to exactly what they subjected Trump supporters to. So I'm going to show video of January 6th. But for me, like a lot of people were there and they went after them. I did not enter into the Capitol. But we also have the Patriot Purge. This is what I want to talk about. The 2020 election, January 6, 2021, and the Patriot Purge. So they stole the 2020 election, imposed radical wokeism and leftism. You know, it warms my heart to see the whole country turning away from and turning against totalitarianism, authoritarianism, the woke agenda, the far leftism of Obama Biden. I'm glad to see that. And it's like this tyranny collapsing and a new birth of freedom, liberty, and opportunity. But we have this book by Pete Hegseth, The War on Warriors, and he was subjected to this, how they wouldn't let him go on orders because they viewed him as a how do they put it? I have never engaged in any political violence. Violent domestic extremists. Violent domestic extremism. What they're trying to say as if this is what they did for 4 years, longer than that really, because they did this crap during Trump's first term in office. If you supported Trump, I mean, they try to present him as a dictator, as a Hitler, a literal Hitler, and Mussolini, a threat to democracy. They campaigned on that, a threat to democracy. So Trump, this is what they said. Trump is a threat to democracy. For the news media to engage in such inflammatory rhetoric is unconscionable. There should be consequences to these people. The FCC should just revoke their licenses. To say that the rival political party, the Republican Party, and their candidate, it's ridiculous. But they said it, and some of these people, this is dangerous because I believe that Crooks is just a straight up FBI recruit. But if he wasn't, he's hearing these things said by the Democrats. He's hearing these things said on the news media that Trump is a Hitler, a literal Hitler. Trump is a threat to democracy, and he acted on it. And they're calling us violent domestic extremists. And they're purging us out of the military. They lost. Thank God they lost. Because the real threat to democracy is Christopher Wray, is Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, is Obama, is Joe Biden. So, I'm going to show in this series, Patriot Purge, January 6th and the Patriot Purge. We're going to be looking at, I also want to look at, in this series, we have to look at evidence of the voter fraud. I think that in 2020 and 2024 and 2022 for that matter. Isn't it interesting that we're able to conduct elections until 2020 and now we don't have election day anymore. We have election weeks or months. And we don't want that. I don't want that. I want our election system. Something's wrong. Something is wrong where, throughout my whole life, except for Bush Gore, but I mean, throughout people's lives for, like 100 years, we were able to carry out elections the day of. And all of a sudden in 2020, we can't, and since then we can't do elections anymore. That's why I can go to January 6th. It's like, look guys, get your freaking act together. What the heck is going on? And like I've been to Trump rallies. And that's all January 6th was. I couldn't conceive of violence. I didn't see any violence. I mean, the people that got killed were Ashley Babbitt. Then they lies. And then, what bothers me is when it's proven that Officer Setnick's death had no connection at all with January 6th. That he died of natural causes, not related in any way to January 6th. And yet they continue to say police officers were killed, which then they weren't. Lying. And if you watch Capital Punishment, you can see Capitol police officers inciting by unprovoked attacks on peaceful protesters. And where's the accountability for them? So I was talking to my friend, it's like, what about these elderly women that had their doors kicked down, the middle of the night, dragged in the street, humiliated. People just go into there. They open the doors, they wave people inside the Capitol, and they give them lengthy prison sentences, force them to go to D.C., ruin thousands of people's lives, put them on, on FBI. We're gonna all these. Look at this person. Let's go after all these protesters. I don't condone violence. Like I said, I didn't even see violence. I'm convinced. So the federal government finally admitted, and I don't believe they're being totally forthcoming, that at least the FBI had at least 26 confidential human resources, they call them. Rats and red hats. FBI assets disguised as Trump supporters. And Horowitz's report said that these FBI, not full-time employees, but people working as agents of the FBI, were dressed up as Trump supporters, were rioting and engaging in violence and criminal acts on January 6th, and they were not punished for the things they did. Looks like a setup to me. We have the legitimate right to protest. It was not a violent protest, and what we really need to do right now, I'm going to put my video out there on January 6th in this series, but what we really need to do is, all January 6ers, we have to release all the security videos from everything the federal government has. The police cameras, all this, the security cameras, everything in January 6th needs to be released. And it has to be done. And they're covering it up for a reason, because they have a fictional narrative. There was not a violent insurrection or riot on January 6th. I was there from 6 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's bad enough that these things did not happen the way they said they did. But to use this mostly peaceful protest as a way to criminalize dissent in this country and to pursue Americans from coast to coast, from border to border, for supporting Trump, and purging people out of our military, a systematic campaign by our federal government to violate the rights of American citizens. There has to be accountability. And I said, what about me? You know, I've lost tens of thousands of dollars. And I said, they attacked me at the lowest point of my life. And we cannot allow these people to get away with it. What's his name? Is that Perna? Thomas Perna, I think his name was. They drove this man. He was willing to, like, oh, what do you want me to do? He didn't do anything wrong. They opened doors, they waved him in. He walked around, walked out. And they were going to try to give him a terrorist enhancement. And he was trying to, okay, I'll do my prison sentence, whatever makes you happy, I'll confess. And it's like, okay, that's not good enough. We're going to give you a terrorism enhancement. And that poor man, that young man, just in despair, committed suicide. A lot of people committed suicide. So people literally died. Ashley Babbitt died. Rosalind Boylan died. Mr. Perna, I think that was his name, died. And people had their lives ruined and destroyed. And we cannot allow these people to get away with it with impunity. We're going to hold these people accountable for what they did. Everybody. I mean, all those FBI assets and agents, whoever they were, I want to expose them. And I think they're the ones that need to be criminally prosecuted. And judges, these judges, need to be held accountable for what they did as well. Because it's a vast campaign, the American federal government waging a war against the American people in violation of our Constitution. If anything, sedition and treason, that's it. And people informing on their neighbors, watch Capital Punishment. Just watch it. And I think people are finally waking up. I'm glad to see that CNN, MSNBC are losing a lot of their viewership. And we're seeing Trump shooting up in the polls. And I think that Trump ran a very effective campaign in 2024. He showed that he's not a demon. He's a compassionate, big-hearted person. He's relatable. He's funny. I mean, the guy could be a stand-up comedian. And just people need to just open your freaking eyes and look at things for yourself and stop being lied to and controlled by academia, by the entertainment establishment, and by the what do they call it, the legacy news media. They're just a bunch of clowns. And we have to stand up. We have to fight back. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be filing lawsuits to hold people who harmed me over the 2020 election accountable. We cannot allow people. It's in the Bible as well. The Apostle Paul is a Roman citizen, and they tried to violate his rights, and he wouldn't stand for it. He said, I appeal to my rights as a Roman citizen. I have the right to appeal to Caesar. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to allow people, it's not Christian, it's not ethical, it's not right to allow yourself to have your rights as a citizen violated. And people have unjustly, not just me, but many people have been done harm because they're trying to criminalize dissent and use the power of the federal government. Oh, we don't want this party. The people in D.C., we don't want this party. Mitch McConnell, so-called Republicans. Republicans. I think that's part of the reason why, there's many reasons why Trump won in 2024. They did not have the vast voter fraud network that they had in 2020. Because 2021 to 2024 has been a reign of terror. High crime, open borders, hundreds of thousands of people every year, 100,000 dying from drug overdose, hyperinflation, cost of, what about that? Groceries up. I was talking to somebody, we're talking about building supplies, where you have 100, 200, 300% inflation on certain items. Groceries, probably cost 50% inflation. Every year 20, 30%, 50%, 100%, 200% inflation. All because these disastrous policies. That's part of the reason why I was at January 6th too. Because I know what was going to happen. I mean, we were making advances towards peace in the Middle East. Look what's going on now. Because of Joe Biden, people are dying around the world. I mean, there's like no young men in Ukraine anymore. They've killed all of them. Jewish Israelis, Israeli Arabs, Palestinians. So much death, needless death, war, and conflict. We had peace. We had stability. We had prosperity. And I was like, we need to keep on this track for the good of not just America, but for the whole world. We should want what's best for everybody, and Trump was bringing it. And it's, we allowed these people got scared and went along with this nightmare. Well, this long 4-year nightmare is over, and we're going to have peace and an opportunity again. But we also have to have accountability for what these people did to me and to other people. There must be consequences to that. There has to be consequences. And the other thing, I was telling my friend this, it's not just about justice and how we had our rights violated. It's like we have to have a deterrence. We allowed Obama to get rid of the Tea Party, and that emboldens him to go after MAGA. MAGA is too big. Trump is too big. It's not just the Tea Party was significant. That's quite an accomplishment, destroying the Tea Party. They did it. They used the federal government to crush the Tea Party. They did it before. We stand back and look the other way, or not we, but our elected representatives, so-called. And so they try to do it on a massive scale, but they failed. And part of it, their failure is I think, divine intervention. I mean, Trump turned his head at the last second, nanosecond, and his life was spared. God has intervened, and we should thank God for that every day. But God's a God of justice, and Jesus Christ is going to come back to judge the world, and we need to see righteous judgment now. We have to have all the video from January 6th released, and we have to have justice inflicted upon these villains, these people like Liz Cheney, and was it Rissinger? Who's the other one? Jamie Raskin, Ritzenberger, whatever his name is. All these people need to face accountability for their actions. That's the only way to preserve liberty and opportunity, is to hold these people accountable and let them face the consequences for what they did. So, this is an introduction to my series on January 6th. Hope you can join me as we continue to look at these issues about the 2020 election and the consequences of the coup and January 6th and what they did, but also holding these people accountable for the crimes they committed against so many American citizens, but also crimes of violations against not just individuals' constitutional rights, but they threaten the entire constitutional system. Everything they're trying to do is they don't want us to have a democracy. They're trying to establish authoritarianism and totalitarianism. They want to have single-party rule. And thank God it looks like that's been snatched away from their filthy, wicked hands. Because we should stand up for the Constitution. We should stand up for liberty. And we should stand up also for God and the Holy Scriptures. So, hope to see you in the next program. In the concluding video, I'm just recycling the video for my political campaign. We're able to defeat the incumbent, thank God. But I wasn't able to win. Played an important role, I think, in that election. It was a good experience. I don't plan to run again. Who knows what the future holds. But I'm going to do a different conclusion soon. But I just want to put this out there for now. So thank you and God bless you.
victory, begin the victory.